It provided undeniable evidence for all my doubts. It was protection.
Hi guys. Last time, Gianna told her story about her relationship with Chris, who she suspected was cheating on her. That was part 1, which ended with a cliffhanger. If you haven't watched it and wish to, please click the top link in the description. Otherwise, I know you'll have been waiting for this so much, so let's just get into it. Enjoy!
After giving birth to Sabrina, I had surgery, so we didn't need to use any sort of protection. I threw the disgusting thing away, and my heart shattered to pieces. How could he do this to me? I felt helpless as I sat on the couch and held my head. Images of him and another woman swirled in my mind, adding to my heartache. I had given everything to him and this family, yet he treated me like dirt. After my initial shock, I mumbled to myself repeatedly, "Gianna, calm down. You can't afford to lose everything you've worked so hard for." I needed to give myself a clear and definitive answer. Once I recollected my emotions, I washed up and took a cab to the company building. I had only visited Cenat Corporation once when they first relocated to Miami Tower. Chris took me there, and we rented an entire floor. That day, he held me as we stood by the floor-to-ceiling window in his office, and he said affectionately,
"Thank you for changing my life. Believe me, my love, it won't be long before I give this building to you."
I chuckled at his words. Now, he was about to tear it all apart. When I entered the building, the young and attractive receptionist asked me who I was looking for. When I mentioned Chris's name, she gave me a quick glance over and said with a smile that Mr. Chris was not in, that he had gone out with his wife. My head buzzed when I heard that. I tightened my grip around my handbag, but my voice turned somewhat sharp despite my efforts to control my emotions. Subconsciously, I asked again what she said before asking her whether she was sure about this. She looked at me in puzzlement and confirmed as she said,
"Why, yes. You asked for Mr. Chris of Cenat Corporation from the 10th floor, right? He left early this morning with his wife."
She certainly sent shivers down my spine. I felt tempted to ask who Chris's wife was. If another woman was his wife, who am I? However, I held myself back and clenched my teeth. Then I turned and left Miami Tower. I wanted to leave with dignity and really hoped the receptionist had made a mistake. Ultimately, I texted Antonio from the company's marketing department. My hands shook, but I calmed myself before asking in the text, "Hey, Antonio, is Chris done with his meeting? I've been trying to call him, but he's not picking up. I'm starting to get a little worried." Antonio was one of the high-ranking executives at Cenat Corporation, so he would know if there was a meeting. Upon seeing my text, he took a while to reply. He sent me a text, and it said, "Meeting? There's no meeting today, Mrs. Jones. Mr. Jones is out." After reading the text, I was shocked and could only exclaim to myself. At that moment, a sense of powerlessness washed over me. My tense nerves collapsed, and I felt my knees buckle. My hand that held the phone shook uncontrollably. I couldn't even muster the courage to call Chris and ask where he was. Was there even a need to ask? He would just lie to me again. He brazenly paraded around Miami Tower with another woman, making everyone believe the other woman was his wife. That woman could freely enter and exit, step into the company I had built independently, and enjoy privileges that should have been mine. I felt lost as I stood on the street among the crowd, and he was nowhere in sight. He resembled sand, slipping through my fingers. The more I tried to grasp him, the faster he slipped away. After thinking things through, I found out who this Mrs. Jones really was. With that idea in mind, I gathered the strength to move my trembling legs and hailed a cab. Once I reached home, I went to the nearby grocery store and bought ingredients for many of Chris's favorite dishes. I even picked out some pineapples that Sabrina loved. I was going to wait for him to come home. As I busied myself with chores, I thought about my next step. I always thought time passed too quickly, but this time was different, as it seemed to drag on endlessly. When evening arrived, I gathered my courage to call Chris and ask where he was, before telling him to pick Sabrina up. He readily agreed. I had almost finished preparing the food when Chris returned with our daughter. Sabrina ran in, exclaiming in her sweet and childish voice, "Mommy, I'm back." Her adorable voice brought tears to my eyes. but I suppressed my emotions. I got you some pineapples. Your favorite, right?
Oh, Mommy, you're the best.
She ran out and headed to Chris, saying,
Daddy, I want to eat pineapples.
Just a small piece. You can have more after dinner, okay?
Chris washed his hands and fed our eager little girl. Then he squeezed into the tiny kitchen and hugged me from behind. He proceeded to ask me why I had made so much food. I felt terrible because this once happy family of 3 was now on the verge of collapsing. You just came back from a business trip. You must be tired. I forced a smile and asked, "Were you busy today?" He hummed a reply, and my heart immediately sank. I playfully nudged him with my elbow. "Go set the table." His intimate attempts made me sick. I wondered if he thought of the other woman whenever he held me. When I finished cooking, I smiled and asked, "Do you want a drink?" "It's been a while, and I want a glass of wine." Chris looked at me questioningly.
Why do you suddenly want a drink?
"No reason," I answered as I turned to get the wine. "Since I made so many dishes, we need to celebrate." I knew Chris couldn't handle wine well, so I poured him a little to avoid arousing suspicion. Then I poured myself half a glass and toasted with him. Once we started drinking, we became excited and talkative. I pretended to be in high spirits as I reminisced about our college days, starting the business, and our current life. Chris noticed how cheerful I was and poured himself another glass of wine. Ultimately, he was drunk when I helped him onto the bed.
Okay.
Afterward, I put Sabrina to bed before beginning my mission. My heart was pounding as it was my first time looking through his things in so many years. I must have been too innocent to trust him. I searched through his pockets and bag, but found nothing valuable. Finally, I found his phone, but it had a fingerprint lock. I quietly approached him, trying to grab his hand, but he suddenly turned and caught me, staring at me with sharp eyes. My heart was about to jump out.
I need water.
He slurred at me. I ran out to pour him a glass of water and fed it to him. Then he collapsed back onto the bed, fast asleep. I unlocked and looked through his phone but found no suspicious names in the call history. I recognized most of them, and it seemed like very few were female, so I ruled them out. Then I checked his messages only to realize he hadn't been messaging many people. I opened the conversation of the first contact and saw the message from the day he returned. Did she find out? It was just those 4 words with no additional information. I clicked on the number's profile and wanted to see whether I could connect to any social media accounts or WhatsApp, but I couldn't. I couldn't find any clues about who the sender was. It seemed like this person was cautious. Chris told me it was Bree, but I needed to verify it. His photo albums included pictures of Sabrina and me and 2 of Bree. Besides that, his phone was clean. I even scanned the phone with an app, but nothing suspicious was there too.
Okay.
I tossed and turned that night, wondering how there could be no traces. I figured the woman wasn't someone from the company or the building. Otherwise, the receptionist wouldn't have called her Mrs. Jones. I wondered who that other woman was, or if I'd ever interacted with her. I forced myself out of bed the following day. The dark circles around my eyes were horrible, and Chris noticed them. He asked in surprise,
Are you sick, honey? Why do you look so pale?
"You kept me up all night," I retorted, not in the mood for pleasantries. He was stunned but hugged me with a shy grin.
No more drinking for you. Exercise is better instead since it helps with sleep.
I didn't know why, but my stomach churned when I heard his words. I rushed to the bathroom, vomiting and crying. Chris rushed in behind me and patted my back.
What's wrong with you? Maybe I should take you to the hospital.
I pushed him away and lied. "It's nothing. I just didn't sleep well. You should take Sabrina to kindergarten. I'll be fine once I rest a bit more." He lifted and laid me back on the bed, pulling the blanket over me.
Then get some sleep while I send Sabrina to school. If you don't feel well, just call me, okay?
I nodded and listened to my husband and daughter's chatter get softer as they left. Finally, they closed the door behind them, and I left the bed to run to the window. I watched Chris enter the car with my excited daughter. I didn't look away until Chris drove out of the gated community. My eyes teared up as I wondered if only everything could return to how it was before. Afterward, I changed into my jeans and t-shirt before slipping on a cap. Then I went to the cafe across from Miami Tower and found the most strategic spot facing the entrance. I knew it was not smart, but I thought it was the most efficient way. However, I returned home empty-handed for 3 consecutive days. I couldn't even see Chris because I overlooked one crucial detail. He often used the underground parking, which had a direct passage to the lobby. I only realized this on the 4th day. Just as I thought I was at a loss, I saw Chris hurrying out of the building with his phone. He seemed to be talking on the phone as he headed toward a cafe opposite Miami Tower. My heart raced as I followed him from a distance. He crossed the road at an intersection ahead and entered the cafe with quaint decorations and an elegant environment. It was the perfect place for elites in the surrounding commercial district to hang out and discuss business here. I guess Chris was meeting someone there and glanced at the floor-to-ceiling windows, wondering if I should follow him inside. Just then, I saw someone sitting by the window. The person wore a stunning professional pantsuit, looking bold and graceful. It was Valentina. She looked more beautiful than usual today. I chuckled and thought it was a coincidence that she was there too. It meant I wouldn't have to put in much effort since Valentina could see who Chris was with. With that thought in mind, I picked up my phone and called her. I saw Valentina pick up the phone, but I was surprised to see Chris at the window. I watched as Valentina signaled Chris to stay quiet before her voice came through the phone.
Are you bored or something?
Those words struck my nerves. If this had happened in the past, I might have considered it playful teasing between friends, but now I detected mockery behind her words. It hurt more than seeing her with Chris. I asked, "Where are you?"
I'm in a meeting at the office. I'll call you back later.
I saw Valentina gazing at Chris as she spoke. Her answer left me speechless.
What? Another cliffhanger? Come on. Well, that was part 2. I kindly ask you to subscribe, please. It takes a lot of effort to make this video, so if you enjoy them, please subscribe. And also like the video to help the channel grow. Thanks for watching.